The Berlin Wall. The partitioning of Berlin. As World War II came to an end in 1945, a pair of Allied peace conferences at Yalta and Potsdam determined the fate of Germany's territories. They split the defeated nation into 4 Allied occupation zones. The eastern part of the country went to the Soviet Union, while the western part went to the United States, Great Britain, and eventually France. Even though Berlin was located entirely within the Soviet part of the country, it sat about 100 miles from the border between the eastern and western occupation zones. The Yalta and Potsdam agreements split the city into similar sectors. The Soviets took the eastern half, while the other Allies took the western. This 4-way occupation of Berlin began in June 1945. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for future interesting videos. Blockade and crisis. The existence of West Berlin, a conspicuously capitalist city deep within communist East Germany, stuck like a bone in the Soviet throat, as Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev put it. The Russians began maneuvering to drive the United States, Britain, and France out of the city for good. In 1948, a Soviet blockade of West Berlin aimed to starve the Western Allies out of the city. Instead of retreating, however, the United States and its allies supplied their sectors of the city from the air. This effort, known as the Berlin Airlift, lasted for more than a year and delivered more than 2.3 million tons of food, fuel, and other goods to West Berlin. The Soviets called off the blockade in 1949. After a decade of relative calm, tensions flared again in 1958. For the next 3 years, the Soviets, emboldened by the successful launch of the Sputnik satellite the year before during the space race and embarrassed by the seemingly endless flow of refugees from east to west, nearly 3 million since the end of the blockade, many of them young skilled workers such as doctors, teachers, and engineers, blustered and made threats, while the Allies resisted. Summits, conferences, and other negotiations came and went without resolution. Building the wall. That night, Premier Khrushchev gave the East German government permission to stop the flow of immigrants by closing its border for good. In just 2 weeks, the East German army, police force, and volunteer construction workers had completed a makeshift barbed wire and concrete block wall, the Berlin Wall, that divided one side of the city from the other. Before the wall was built, Berliners on both sides of the city could move around fairly freely. They crossed the east-west border to work, to shop, to go to the theater and the movies. Trains and subway lines carried passengers back and forth. After the wall was built, it became impossible to get from east to west Berlin except through one of 3 checkpoints. At Helmstedt, Checkpoint Alpha in American military parlance, at Dreilinden, Checkpoint Bravo, and in the center of Berlin at Friedrichstrasse, Checkpoint Charlie. Eventually, the GDR built 12 checkpoints along the wall. At each of the checkpoints, East German soldiers screened diplomats and other officials before they were allowed to enter or leave. Except under special circumstances, travelers from East and West Berlin were rarely allowed across the border. The Berlin Wall, 1961 to 1989. The construction of the Berlin Wall did stop the flood of refugees from east to west, and it did defuse the crisis over Berlin. Though he was not happy about it, President John F. Kennedy conceded that a wall is a hell of a lot better than a war. Almost 2 years after the Berlin Wall was erected, John F. Kennedy delivered one of the most famous addresses of his presidency to a crowd of more than 120,000 gathered outside West Berlin City Hall, just steps from the Brandenburg Gate. Kennedy's speech has been largely remembered for one particular phrase: "I am a Berliner." In all, at least 171 people were killed trying to get over or around the Berlin Wall. Escape from East Germany was not impossible, however. If you enjoyed from this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more content. Thanks for watching.